Hi there, it's Anne of Rosy Duck Designs here. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I have to say that in the current times that we're living with and coping with, it's really good to get some good news for a change, and that's certainly what's happened this week for us. In that a friend of ours, or friends of ours, their daughter has announced her engagement. So it's very exciting, very happy news. The only slight downside to that was I suddenly thought I actually remember when she was born, so it was kind of a bit of a reality check, and I'm like, seriously, where have all those years gone? But no, it's really happy news, and as I say, really lovely to see a young couple happy and looking forward to their future together. So of course that calls for an engagement card, and that is what I'm going to share with you today. So I have, to be honest, put um, most of the card together because the emphasis at the moment is getting the card over to them. So I just wanted to do the basics of it, but I thought I would share with you what I've done, and the extra embellishments that I'm adding to it, and also share with you some techniques basically that I've used. But taking the precaution that I don't really want to mess the card up, I'll show you those separately, having already put the embellishments together that I want to use. So normally I try to use current products, purely because whilst the whole point of these videos is to just give you some ideas of what you can use your whatever you have in your craft supplies, how you could put together a card. But sometimes there is obviously a product that I use, and you may be sitting there thinking, oh well, I really like that, I'd like that, and then it can be a little bit frustrating if that product is no longer available. There's also an element of the fact that I get to use the designer series paper throughout its lifetime within whichever catalogue it is, and by the time we get to the point where it retires, I'm probably quite happy because I've had sufficient time to play with my choice of the designer series paper. So I'm quite pleased to, not pleased, but I'm happy enough to let it go and move on, because whatever's in the new catalogue is very, very exciting. However, very occasionally there is one designer series paper where I'm like, no, no, I've got to keep that, because even if I just use it on a private card, I know that at some point is going to be useful. Now I have to say the From My Heart designer series paper certainly fell into that category. I loved it when it was current, and uh, I love it now, and yes, it's still sitting on my shelf because I know that if I've got a special anniversary card, a wedding card, in this case engagement card, it's just the perfect designer series paper to use. And I'm actually sharing this with you because the good news is, although it's retired, it is actually on the clearance rack. So it's not only a fabulous paper, but it's also at a fabulous price. Now, the designer series paper you can buy for just £5.20. So I seem to be missing a sheet. I clearly used that sheet up when there should be 6 sheets. I can only find remnants of 5, but it will hopefully give you, no, I have got 6, I lie. There you go. Oh no, that's the same as that. No, it isn't. Slightly different. What do I know? Absolutely nothing. So there we go. I think I do have the remnants of 6 sheets. What I loved about this, it was a very simple colour palette, in the sense that it was Real Red, Flirty Flamingo and Whisper White. So it didn't require an awful lot of investment in inks, and also certain elements of this paper were had this beautiful metallic element to them. Now on this really dull day, I'm not sure that's showing up on camera, but hopefully you're getting a sense of the metal or the metallic elements in that particular paper. So that's the flip side to that. It's not quite the same, but fairly similar. That's why I got confused. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we've got that one, we've got this one, which again we've got some nice shining elements in that. And we've got, this actually makes a really nice little background paper. We've got this one, which I'm going to be using. That again, we've got some nice metallic elements in that. And the lovely thing with some of these papers is that this one will coordinate with the heart punch that's got the smooth edges. So if you notice, this will, I'll just cut this one out because it's not a full heart. If you notice, that will coordinate with that punch. So imagine we've still got the end bit on there, but that's lovely, the fact that it does that. And where did I get to? And finally this one. Again, this has to be my favourite because these hearts will coordinate with the crinkle edge heart punch, and we're going to be using those today on the card. So I won't punch this out, these are too precious, but I think that will hopefully just cut that bit off, and you'll see that that will match into that punch. You can easily then punch these out. So that is the paper, and if you know that you've got some special cards for anniversaries, weddings, engagements coming up, or even if you haven't at the moment, it is the perfect paper for that. And what a fabulous price. So definitely time to treat yourself, I would say. And also in that catalogue there was some little metal tins that you could actually bake cakes in, but they also work really well with as favours. Probably weddings and favours, probably not the best conversation at the moment. I'm not quite sure how many we were allowed at weddings, etc. But you know, let's be positive, look into the future. They are great little favour containers, or also perhaps if you're, again, you know, I'm thinking ahead, special dinner party, whatever. But again, I forgot to write the price down. I'll put it on the front of the video. But they are really pretty, and the good thing with them is that they coordinate with these really pretty little heart doilies, and they come in Flirty, Flamingo or Real Red, but they're also white on the back, so you could always use a sponge brayer and change the colour of those if you wanted to. But they're absolutely brilliant, and these little tins that I'm talking about, the lid, these heart doilies fit into the lid, and they also fit into the base of the tin. So again, another little project idea. Even filling them up with some sweets to send to somebody, somebody that you're missing. Perhaps that's a more practical suggestion at the moment. Someone you haven't seen for a while, sending them a little gift in a little heart-shaped tin would be rather nice. So we're going to be using these today, and the even better news is that currently these are on the clearance rack, priced at just £2. So it's certainly a bargain or two to be had on our clearance rack at the moment, so well worth having a look, even if this isn't your thing. But there are lots of other really nice products on there, so do go over there and have a look and see what is there. So my card is slightly different to the one I would usually make. It because it was a special card, I wanted it to be slightly bigger, so I've gone with a 6x6 finished card. And I've done that by using a piece of our 12x12 Whisper White cardstock, and I've cut that 12x6, scored at 6 on the long side to make my base card. Now that is basically the equivalent of 30x15, scored at 15 centimetres on the long side. So it's effectively cutting a 12x12 piece of cardstock in half and then just folding it in the middle. So I'm trying to give you the metric measurements as well. We live in hope that I've got them right. So on the first layer of my card, I've used a Real Red Cardstock, and I've cut that at 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, or 14.5 by 14.5. So I've got one piece on the front, and then I've got one piece in the middle. For my next layer of my designer series paper, that is cut at 5 1/2 by 5 1/2, or 14 by 14. And my designer series paper on the inside of the card is cut at 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, or 14.5 by 14.5. The two areas of the Whisper White cardstock here, they're both 4 3/4 by 4 3/4, and that is 12 by 12. What I didn't say at the outset was the 12 by 12 Whisper White cardstock is less substantial as our thick Whisper White cardstock. The clue obviously is in the name, thick cardstock. That is what I would normally use for my cards, just because it has got that extra thickness, and if you just want a single layer card, then you know it's absolutely perfect for that. The thinner Whisper White cardstock is absolutely fine as well, particularly when you are adding layers to it, because the more layers you add to it, the heavier the card gets, so it will quite happily stand up with no problem whatsoever. So I've added a little bit of stamping here. I wanted a nice red border around here, so I wanted these two pieces of white cardstock to the size to match, and I've got a little bit of stamping here. Nothing particularly spectacular about that, but there was a little bit of masking involved with that, which I will share with you when we put the card together. So let's start with the inside. I've got two of the doilies, and I've heat embossed in white the initials of the couple, and I've used my Make a Difference stamp set, which has got a variety of numbers and letters, and that costs £21. Or you could go with the Playful Alphabet. There is a stamp set, but there's also some dies that you could just cut out your initials. I have to say I need to order that one. I don't have that at the moment, so I've gone with this, but again it's a really good alternative. The Playful Alphabet stamp set and dies. So I'm just going to put my hearts over here, but then under there I'm going to add a congratulatory drink, and I've made that using the dies and stamp set, so the bundle of the Love You More Than bundle. So that is that stamp set. So I've used these two elements, which I will share with you once we put the card together, and I've used the dies to obviously cut this out, to die cut that. From the same stamp, sorry, so it's actually from the dies. There's a really good die that says Love You More Than, and it comes out in separate words, so I've used that to cut out the love. I thought I'd stick that in the middle there. And I've used some of the adhesive sheet on my Real Red Cardstock, so that when I peel off this backing, this word will stick very easily onto my cardstock, or my card there. So I think that looks about right. So let's start sticking. So I'm using my snail, and I still have plenty of that left. At some point I will need to avail myself of our new adhesive, but at the moment I've got some snail left. But obviously an adhesive of your choice, whatever you are comfortable using. Now I've just stuck in the middle of the doily, because if you start going over here you're going to get glue, whatever glue, showing through. The liquid glue could seep through, and even if you put snail or a similar adhesive over that, you're going to get that shininess. So all you need to do is just stick the central piece down. You don't need to do the whole thing. So I've heat embossed this with white embossing powder. So obviously I needed a heat tool, I needed some Versamark and some white embossing powder. So put that there, and again I'm sticking this down with my snail, making sure I've got the bit of adhesive on all the areas, because we don't want it coming up at all. So we'll stick the Flirty Flamingo version under there. And we'll stick the Real Red version under the Real Red heart. Move that in slightly. There we go. Now I just need to remove these little bits that haven't come out on my E here. So let me just remove that. I have to say the adhesive sheets are absolutely brilliant, particularly when you're using something like, or you're die cutting something like a word, because it's impossible, whatever glue you're using, to get glue everywhere, and it's also quite impossible to have the glue on there and it not show through in some format. This is perfect for sticking these very small dies down, or die cuts down. The adhesive sheets you will find in the catalogue, and they are £9.25. A little bit fiddly in that you just need to get your nail or your paper piercer just behind the backing there, but once you've got that that edge away, then it's really easy. The other thing is that you don't want to you need to touch the back of this, so the back where the adhesive is, touch it as little as possible, because every time you touch it, a tiny bit of that adhesive is going to come off, and that isn't what you want. You want as much on there so that it sticks down without any problem. So there we go. Stick that in the middle. There we go. And I'm going to add just over here a couple of little red hearts, and I'm going to use the dog punch. So the dog punch is £17. Great for cards with dogs, but I've probably got to say I have used the heart on this punch more than I've used the dog, but there you go. So this is the backing of my Real Red cardstock that I used to cut this out. If you notice, I've put my little adhesive sheet over here, and then I've run this through my Big Shot, so that then I've got my die cut word and it's all ready to take the back off and stick. I've deliberately left it with a little bit extra because I wanted to cut out a couple of hearts, and again, by using, I could use a glue dot to secure these, but I just thought by using the remainder of the back end of the card with the adhesive sheet on it, it's going to be even easier to stick. Not quite so easy to get it out of the punch, but there you go. So we're going to have one over here. Just cut another one of those out. So I don't think I said, but the two hearts, they come as a 2 punches within the set, and they are £32. But again, brilliant for those sort of anniversary cards and anywhere that you need a heart on your projects. Get rid of the rubbish. So again, I just need to get the backing off. Stick one in that corner. And then another one in this corner. So that is the inside of our card finished. Just put the end on my paper piercer before I lose it. So then it's just the front to go. Now for the front, I'm using the Doilies, and what I've done is, out of that designer series paper up here, I've cut out one of the red hearts and one of the Flirty Flamingo hearts, and I've cut that out, as I said earlier, using the crinkle edged punch. Now those hearts fit perfectly into the little doilies, so you've not only got a nice edge around the heart, you've also got this additional element of the pretty filigree, I think the word is, isn't it? I've not got my trusty cameraman here to, but I think that's what it is. It's like a filigree lace effect. But even if that's the wrong word, I think you've got the gist of what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to do the red on the red heart and the Flirty Flamingo on the Flirty Flamingo heart. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So again, I'm going to do it this way because I don't want ink glue going where I don't want it. So I've got my adhesive on there, and I just want to line up my heart, the middle of the heart, but I don't want to lose the bottom end of the heart doily. So I've married up the middle of my heart there with the area there where the heart dips into in here, and then my bottom end of the heart is here where the doily is coming to the point of the heart shape. So again, some adhesive on my doily. It's not that late in the afternoon, I have to say, but it's getting seemingly darker by the minute. It's somewhat disconcerting, but not unexpected in the middle of October. That wonderful prospect of the clocks going back and getting dark, and we can all get more depressed than we already are. But enough of that. Let's think happy thoughts. I'm not good in the winter with the dark nights, I have to say. There you go. So I'm going to put the red heart here, and then I'm just going to raise up the Flirty Flamingo heart, so it's just going over the edge of the red heart, and this is still quite flimsy, for want of a better word, because all we've got here is a little doily with a piece of design series paper. So to give this a little bit more structure so that it will stand on the front of the card knife a bit better, so it's got a bit of depth to it, I'm just going to add a heart on the back. Now I've literally just cut that heart out using my plain edged heart punch. So I don't want to stick it where it can be seen. So for safety's sake, I'm actually just going to trim it, because nobody's going to see this. It's just purely to give my heart shape a little bit of, as I say, structure. Yeah, so that's nicely disguised. So we're not worried about what this looks like. All we just don't want it to do is to show through the front of the doily, which it doesn't. So let's stick this one down. So again, I'm using my adhesive, and again I'm just doing the middle of the heart. I don't want anything going around here so that it shows. I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to put some stamping dimensionals to my Flirty Flamingo heart, but I'm actually sticking those onto that piece of white card that I've just stuck on the back there. Let's just take those off. And I'm just going to put that on there. And I'm just going to finish that then off with a congratulations down here. Now I've cut these out using my very favourite layering oval dies. If you watch me regularly, you'll know that I tend to use them. I just think they're so perfect for layering up in your sentiments, and there's just so many different options of sizes. If you haven't met them before, you can see there's a whole selection of crinkled edged ovals and straight edge ovals. £33, and I have to say probably one of the best £33 I've ever spent on stamping equipment. Definitely being used an awful lot on an awful lot of my projects. My congratulations sentiment has come from the Well Said stamp set. So on here we've got lots of single words, single sentiments, and then we've got some actual phrases on here. It's quite an expensive set, I have to say. It's £42, but you do get lots and lots of stamps. There's actually 51 different stamps in there, so actually when you think about it, it covers more or less every occasion you're ever going to want a sentiment for, so it's well worth that investment. So with my congratulations, I actually heat embossed that using white embossing powder onto a piece of Flirty Flamingo card, cut that out using one of the straight edged dies, and then I've cut out another layering oval from the Real Red card, and that's just going to sit on top of there. Let me just put some adhesive on there. I'm just going to centralise this in the middle. And I'm just going to use some stamping dimensionals to attach that to the front of my card. I need another sheet of stamping dimensionals, but at least I didn't run out. So unlike me. However, I'll let you into a secret. I have forgotten to bring something in, so you're not surprised, are you? It's yet another one of my unprofessional videos. There we go. So let me just put that there. And there we have our finished card. So there's the front, and that is the inside of the card. And I've just finished that off with a little stamp at the back, which comes from the Make a Difference stamp set. I think it's a lovely little sentiment there, because it really sort of highlights the fact that you've put some of yourself into making that card, so it makes it certainly special that you've given of yourself and of your time to create something for somebody. So it doesn't hurt to put that on the back. I just think it adds to the makes it more special. So that is my card finished. I'm going to go and put that somewhere safe, so I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to come back and just share with you how I made these and how I used a stamp and used some masking to achieve that. So I will attempt to pause this. So just a thought before I do put this somewhere safe, just to finish up, I just want to share with you how I've made this little cocktail glass embellishment, and also this stamp here. So it's also living proof that I have achieved it, and it can be done. So if I mess it up now, you'll know that it's not impossible, that I have managed it. It's something about being live on a camera, isn't it? And it all goes somewhat pear-shaped. So I have used the stamp out of the Many Mates stamp set, and it's this one, So Happy For You, and then in brackets it says, and also slightly jealous, which is a fun sentiment for a number of cards, but isn't going to be appropriate for an engagement card. So the only element I actually want is this "So Happy for You." And we hopefully, I use the word loosely, we hopefully will achieve that by just inking up the area of the stamp that we actually want. So the "So Happy for You." So I've got that on my C block, and the way I'm going to do that is to use my Stampin' Right marker, a Real Red Stampin' Right marker, which was the thing I forgot to bring in earlier. Now on the barrel here, you can see that it clearly says you've got your thin nib at this end, the thick nib at the other end, and you've even got lines to show you. So you don't have to sit here pulling the ends off randomly, like I tend to do. I tend to forget we've actually got that, but so I want the large end, the brush end, and what I'm going to do is just add the ink. So I'm working from the top of the stamp towards the area that I don't want any ink on. And I'm just covering that over with ink from my Stampin' Right marker. I have to say the light is rapidly fading, and not an excuse. If it all goes wrong, it's not an excuse, but it's actually getting quite hard to see this little stamp. Obviously need to look at our lighting options for the winter, because it's certainly not going to get any better, is it? So imagine this is the card that I want to put that sentiment on, and for safety's sake I'm just going to mask off the area that the other part of the stamp will go on to, so that in theory if I've got any ink on here, it will go on the post-it note rather than the part of the stamp that I want. They're quite tight together, so it's a fine line between the top of the or the post-it note and the stamp. So yeah, I'll give it my best shot. I'm just breathing on that to just moisten the ink. So I'm aiming for this bit to be right at the top of the post-it note, but on the post-it note, so I don't get any problems with ink that I've put on the other bit of the stamp. I mean, having looked at the stamp, if you see an area, I've got to say this looked quite a clean break between the two stamps, but you could always get like a cotton bud or something and very gently remove any ink. But this little bit of post-it note just gives you that little bit of added protection. So there we have our "So Happy for You." So that's that bit done. And the cocktails came from this bundle, the Nothing's Better Than bundle, which I think I probably said earlier, but if I didn't, it's not it. Sorry, let's try this one again. It's the Love You More Than bundle, and it comes to £43. So you've got the stamp set and the coordinating dies with that. Now I've used. Actually, there are now something else that I've forgotten to bring in, so I will have to pause this. So I forgot to bring in my Smoky Slate ink pad. So I'm using the outline of the glass from the Nothing's Better Than stamp set. Put that down first. It just gives us our outline. Now I've used on that engagement card, I've used both my Real Red and my Flirty Flamingo to get the two different colours of the drink. So I'm just going to use the Flirty Flamingo on this demonstration, and I'm using the this little stamp here, which has got your ice cube images on it. If you had your Stamparatus, then you could definitely use that. It would be a good plan. It will line your stamp up very easily. Because it's a photopolymer stamp and you're using a clear block, it's fairly easy, she said, to just basically eyeball it and get it in the right place, which is what I'm going to do for the purpose of this demonstration. but yes, if you've got a Stamparatus, then certainly go for that. There's not going to be any accidents whatsoever in it going in the wrong place. But you can see I've got that within the area that I want it to be. And I'm just going to add a bit of shimmer. It's a cocktail, it deserves some shimmer. And I'm just adding some Wink of Stella over the element that is actually the drink. Not sure whether that's actually going to show up in this ever fading light, but it just gives that nice touch to it. So I've got a lemon. It could equally be a lime. So on the Real Red version I used light granny green apple and dark granny green apple. But here I'm using my light and dark Daffodil Delight stamping blends. So pulling off the right end, I'm just going to colour in the segments of the lemon with my light Daffodil Delight, and then the peel I'm using my dark version. And then I'm going to use the light Flirty Flamingo just to colour in some of the segments of the umbrella. So this just ties it in with the colour of the card and also the colour of the drink. On the Real Red version I used the light granny green apple and the light Daffodil Delight to just add a little bit of colour to my cocktail umbrella. So that is our cocktail finished, and then using the coordinating die of this bundle, you can then cut it out so it becomes an embellishment that you can add to your card, either just by sticking it flat as we've done with the card that we've just put together, or as I did with the anniversary card, which as I said will be on my Facebook page. I've used it with some stamping dimensionals just to raise it off of the surface of the card. Now, although I would cut this out using my magnetic platform, just to make sure that I've got it in exactly the right place and it doesn't move, what I would do is I would just stick it down with a post-it note, and that way you can just run it through your big shot sandwich. So there's my magnetic plate, and that way by just putting that post-it note, it's an additional security to make sure that your die doesn't move in any way, so that you finish up with a very nice clean cut out image as we've done on the cards. So they were just the two other elements that I wanted to share with you. I will put, as usual, my normal links on the front of the video. If you've enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up, that would be great. And also, if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. My next goal for my YouTube channel, that's the word I'm looking for, my next goal, I would love to get by the end of the year 100 subscribers. So if you could possibly help me with that, that would be absolutely amazing. But anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it of some use, and don't forget to go over and check out that clearance rack, because there are some great bargains to be had on there. So I will be back with another project very soon, but until then, look after yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.